Well, Williams families, welcome to Family Days. How is it going so far? No snow yet, right? Awesome. So I'm Don Sharler, the Executive Director of the 68 Center for Career Exploration. You are in for a real trick or treat with this session. You're going to be learning about how your student can navigate the career exploration process. You may have noticed already the word exploration in our name. We're very proud of that. And you'll be learning the nuts and bolts, resources, and people behind the scenes here. We have an excellent panel for you today. Two of our directors will be speaking momentarily, and three very special students. So again, we're thrilled to have you with us. Quick show of hands, just so we know who's in the room. Families associated with first-year students, if you could raise your hand. Majority of you, no surprise. Sophomores, great, welcome. Juniors, and any senior families. Oh, great, welcome. So we're going to spend about 30 minutes plus or minus with our panel, and then we're really going to get into your Q&A. So please be writing down your questions. This is meant to be interactive. That's really one of the more enjoyable parts of this conversation. So don't hesitate to ask the question that's on your mind. I wanted to put a few themes out there before handing off to Janine. A couple observations that I've seen from students over the years, having done this quite well, or students who do well in this process. Number one would be around early engagement. So we really encourage your students, again, many first-year families in the audience. We want to naturalize this process. Many students these days in high school are doing volunteer service internships. They're coming to college expecting to do that. And you'll see we are very eager and welcoming and supportive of first-year students. The second point is that this is a team sport. So we really encourage students to connect with the resources, with the people. As you've seen already and will continue to see, it's a really friendly community here. People really care about your students, and we care about each other. So we go through this process together. It makes it much less intimidating, and we all learn from one another, which leads me to point 3, which is reflection and learning. So we encourage students to participate. You're going to be hearing about internships and recruiting and funding and all types of incredible opportunities that students have. At the end of the day, just like major rarely equals career, we want students to learn through these internships, learn through this academic program, not come in with any preset predispositions, but really come into this education being curious, being willing to try out different things. You'll be surprised at where they end up. And again, I think you're going to hear from some of our students here to learn about how their journeys have evolved. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Janine Oliver, who is our Director of Career Education.
Thanks so much. As Don said, I'm Janine Oliver. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Career Education, and I'm actually a really casual person, so this is a daunting space. Just want to name that. Just to explain a little bit of what my role is and what the teams that I work with do, I oversee the advising functions of the 68 Center. So that includes career advising, peer career advising, health professions advising, and entrepreneurship and innovation, and I'll give you a little glimpse into what that all means. So our peer career advising program is a program that's made up of about 20 students. They are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. They really are great at meeting students where they are. They work on the career development skills that students will use throughout their lifetime. Exploration, networking, crafting their communication materials, resumes, cover letters, interview prep in general, internship search, some job search, and they're really amazing because they're out there in the world with students on a day-to-day basis and really having some of those same experiences as students. Just a quick pitch that we have an application open for that position. We do a paid semester of training each spring semester. We seem to have snagged Olivia last year because her family heard me say that here. And so really, if what we do seems to resonate with you, have a chat with your folks about the opportunity. So they do, in addition to individual appointments, they do a lot of outreach directly to students, to student groups. They do a lot of fun events. Our career advising team is made up of 5 of us. I'm a generalist. I work with students interested in anything at any time. I work, again, like the peer career advisors, on a lot of those skills that folks will use throughout their lifetime, that hidden curriculum there. And then I'm joined by 4 other career advisors who have industry focus. So those industry clusters that they're in are business, finance, and consulting, arts, entertainment, communications, nonprofit education and languages, STEM and health careers, and law, government, environment, sustainability. And it's really important to us that we have folks who are specifically focused on all of these areas so that they can help students make connections and understand how these industries really look and feel on a regular basis and stay really up to date on that. Also under our umbrella are the health professions advisor, Sharon, who focuses on the academic pieces and the application to professional school pieces. And then our entrepreneurship and innovation program, which is really focused on skills that folks can use throughout any industry in any role that is going to help them to problem solve and be creative and forge their own way, as well as really coaching folks who are thinking about going out on their own and making their own thing happen. Our team operates in a few ways. We do a ton of appointments with folks throughout the year. Students of all class years come and meet with us, whether they have questions already or don't have questions yet. We can learn about them and help them figure out what questions they might want to be asking. And we also do a lot of programming. That programming often connects students with alums and folks out there in the world doing these jobs, as well as upperclassmen. So some of that, we do a series of How I Got My Internship programs over winter study, where upperclassmen talk about what they did for the summer and what they learned from it and what their strategy looked like. We do series of career conversations where we kind of lower the barrier to entry for students to be networking with alums and really learning from folks in various fields. And we do a variety of speakers, panels, and workshops that will help folks to both build knowledge and gain skills. I'll say that our goals in all of this are to meet students where they are, wherever that is, to connect them to the resources that would be most valuable to them, and to help empower them to make decisions that are really good for them along the way. I'll say that around 85% of the first year class engages with us. So far this year, we're already at about 60% of students having engaged with us already this year. And so in all likelihood, we're somewhere where your students are. And I think I mentioned a lot of the things that we really help students with, but I just want to drive home the point that Dawn was making before, that exploration is really at the core of what we do. We want to help students to seek information that would help them figure out what will actually drive them out there in the world, what's going to resonate with them, not just get them to a job, but help them with the strategies to find the fits for them out there in the world. I'll say one more thing because it's timely. We also run about a dozen winter study courses. Most of those had applications that expired yesterday, but a few of them are still open. And they're really, really good ways for students to get those exploratory experiences in thinking about what is there out there in the world. And so we can talk a little bit more about those if you folks are curious, but I think it's time for me to hand this off to Lee.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Lee Sylvia, and I'm Director of Operations and External Relations at the 68 Center. And so what that means is that our office essentially has these 2 umbrellas. So there's the team and the work that Janine oversees, and then there's the work that happens on our side of the house, which is made up of a few different components. One is our funding programs. The other is our employer relations functions. The other is sort of alumni connections, which is really woven into all of the work across the office, but I'll talk a little bit more about that, as well as communications and events and sort of general kind of data and operational processes. So first I'll start talking about our funding programs. So we have two main funding sources that come out of our office. One is called the Career Access Fund, also known as CAF. And what that means is that's funding that students can use that are students specifically on financial aid that they can use during the academic year to help support career-related expenses. So that's anything from travel to and from interview, professional attire, graduate school prep, attending conferences, so a really wide range of opportunities that students can utilize that money for, and that can be they can get from $450 to $750, depending on need level and the request. So that's the main during year funding opportunity that they have. The second is for summer funding, and that's through our alumni-sponsored internship program, also known as ASIP. And what that is that if students secure low-paid or unpaid internships during the summer, they have the opportunity to apply to get support from our office to have that experience. And so that's a $2,000 grant to $5,500 grant during the summer. So it's a great opportunity for students to possibly do an experience they might not have otherwise been able to do. So that's funding, and certainly can answer more questions about that afterwards. So the second piece is our employer relations function. So we have a team of dedicated professionals that spend their time building relationships with folks that want to recruit Williams students either for internships or full-time jobs. What that looks like is during the year we have about 80 type-ish events that we have with employers, both in person and virtually, where employers are either coming to campus to talk about their organizations. We call those info sessions. We do a series of events called coffee chats, and that's more intimate one-on-one conversations that students can have where they meet with employers to learn about specific opportunities that they're looking to recruit for. I can say, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about alumni connections throughout the time that you've had here, and you're going to hear a lot about it throughout the rest of the weekend. Alum are a huge part of our recruiting program. About 80%, give or take, of our employers have some sort of alumni connection. So again, the alumni network is really powerful there. One other piece I should mention about employer relations too is that every fall we have our annual job and internship fair. So that's where we have about, give or take, 50 employers that come to campus, usually representing about 25-ish different industries. This year we had 640 students attend, a groundbreaking year for us. A really good opportunity for students to either, if they're early on in their experience here and just kind of want to get comfortable with, say, like a networking experience, as well as learn from a number of different employers around what they're looking for, the opportunities that they have. So sort of that's a flagship event that we have every fall. Just a couple other resources I'll mention. I know I talked about alumni connections. Actually I'll start with Handshake first. So Handshake is a tool that your students, may heard your students talk about, and if not, something I would bring back to them, which is that's a few things for them. One, that's where, with talking about employer relations, that's where we would direct all of our contacts to post their jobs and internships. So that's where they could seek out Williams-sourced jobs and internships. It's also where, if they want to connect with our career advising team, that's where they would go to schedule their appointments. It's also where they're going to go to learn about all of the events that our office is hosting. So be it anything in the recruiting space, anything that's career education skills workshops, all of the different events that we have are housed on Handshake. So just important to know that tool. The other tool I'll mention is eFlink. So this is our sort of alum and student community building platform where we have about 6,500 alums who have raised their hands to say that, I would love to connect with a Williams student or an alum, because it also, alums and alums can connect with each other as well, to either, share, if they're willing to share career advice or talk about their industry, their path to graduate school, whatever it may be. So just know that your students have access to that from day one so that they can really get out there and get comfortable with really, reaping the benefits of the network that we have. I think before I hand it over, the one last thing I'll say is, as far as for you all, we have to let your students know about, when it comes to staying in touch with our office, we have an Instagram account. That's where I would encourage you all to give us a follow. That's where we'll post things about upcoming events, where we feature our peer advisors. We tell stories of what students' experiences look like over the summer. So a great way for you all and your student to not only stay in touch with what's happening and what's being offered through the Career Center, but also to actually hear stories of some of the other students that are out there having really awesome experiences over the summer and during the year. And the other is that we have a weekly newsletter that the students get each week that it's important to remind them to check their email because that's where, again, they're going to learn about the opportunities that are happening through our office. Okay, those are all the main things I'm going to talk about for now, but look forward to your questions later.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Lopez. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm a first-generation student in my senior year at Williams. I'm a biology and Spanish double major on the pre-med track, so a lot of my career exploration in recent years has been centered around gathering research and clinical experiences in preparation for med school applications. So I've worked in labs on campus in both the chemistry and biology department through the Summer Science Research Fund, which actually funded the start of my research, thesis research this past summer. I've also done EMT certification through the Winter Study program here at Williams. And I also work for the Career Center as a peer career advisor. But apart from work and school, I'm heavily involved in the Latinx community on campus. Our org is called Vista, and this year I'm serving as the co-chair. And we host several events every year, such as teach-ins, fundraisers, community events, and celebrations. And right now we're in the midst of our Dia de los Muertos prep for our annual event in Sawyer Library. So looking to the future, I'm hoping to apply to medical school after taking a couple gap years, which I'm hoping to fill with clinical experiences, fellowships potentially, and research experiences as well. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Hi, my name is Tashreeq. I'm originally from Bangladesh. I'm an international student here at Williams. And I come from a place where education is very memorization driven. And coming to Williams, where everything is very discussion based, projects are a heavy part of like the curriculum. It was really overwhelming, but also very exciting. I'm studying computer science here, and my focus is mostly on tech, and I want to go into software engineering. My freshman and sophomore year, I've had a very hard time getting an internship because the industry in tech is really hard right now, and someone who has nothing on their resume when they come into like there's so many people applying, the volume of application is so high that like even getting your resume seen is a very hard part. So one of the reasons that I wanted to, I'm a peer career advisor too. One of the reasons that I wanted to work with the peer career in the 62 Center was because I realized how crafting your resume and all of your communications to a company is very important and make it very specific to the company. Networking that I did, the alumni help that I got. So I interned at Meta last summer as a software engineering intern. I'll be going back there. But previous 2 years, I interned at 3 Williams alumni company. I got really great help from the ASIP fund, the CAF fund. I used those very heavily, and I needed them. I'll be very happy to answer any questions related to tech or anything in general in terms of exploration, networking, the help that I found from Career Center. And before the questions, I just want to say, like, the one takeaway from like 3 years of career exploration that I have is students struggling in their first 2-3 years is very normal. It's part of the process. That's where like you branch out and get out of your comfort zone and like seek help. And that's, I think, the most important part of the career exploration at Williams.
Hi, I'm Olivia Castellini. I'm a sophomore. I'm from the Big Island, Hawaii, and most recently, my parents and I, we all moved to San Francisco last summer. And I am a prospective English major. And so for me, career exploration, last summer, I really wanted to go home. I was ready. And I wanted to do something with writing, but I also didn't want to be doing something super intense. And so I was like, well, what do I like to do when I'm home? And I like to go out to eat food. So my career exploration over winter study, I sat down and I found a lot of like food, either social media or newsletters, and I emailed them and was basically got to say, because my school offers ASIP funding, I can come work for you this summer, and I'll be hopefully able to secure funding, which is what I did. So I sent out all these emails, and I ended up working for Table Hopper, which is a food journalism column that comes out every week. And yeah, I basically got to create my own internship there, which was really awesome, which meant that I got to do a lot of writing, which was really good for me to get some journalism experience. But I also got to go out every week to multiple different restaurants and cafes and eat food and take pictures of it and then write about it. It was the best job ever. But in all actuality, besides all the food eating that I got to do, I was really happy to get writing experience, and I also got to end up talking to so many people, like chefs and things, and owners who are opening this new project, and talk to people who are just so passionate about what they're doing, which I guess wasn't really something I thought about going into working. I was more focused on the food and the writing part, but it ended up being like very enlightening and very fun. Yeah, so after that, I'm hoping to do something else in writing. I'm unsure yet what I'm doing next summer, but I'm happy to answer questions about trying to find things that are out of the box.
Okay, it is your turn. So hopefully that whet your appetite to learn a little more about the career exploration process here at Williams. We're going to have you say your question as clearly, as loud as you can. We may repeat the question just for the benefit of everyone because we have the microphone. You can direct your question to an individual or the panel. Who would like to be first? Wow, right there. Yeah.
So I just, as a parent of a first year, I'm wondering, I'm not exactly sure. I know that my daughter does come and meet, but I was just wondering how you reach those kids to keep them inquiring and exploring and developing.
Keeping them engaged.
That's a wonderful question. You know, I know Lee mentioned these newsletters that go out every week and our Instagram. We do a lot, especially through our peer career advisors, of trying to do things that are fun and awareness building to get folks connected. So right from the beginning of the year, we're engaged with pre-orientation groups. We're engaged at orientation in just a way to, we hand people ice cream sandwiches and popsicles, and we ask them, what might you be interested in, or are you undecided? And we start to get to know them and gather that information. We have our, on November 5th, we have a LinkedIn photo booth coming up specifically for first years as part of second days. That's an opportunity to come and get a professional headshot if folks want, but also basically they'll come in at the time they sign up for. They'll spend 10 minutes chatting with one of these amazing peer career advisors about who they are and what they're thinking about, and then we'll have a bunch of educational / fun stations for them to dive into a little bit of content before they get their picture taken. And so we do that. We have several of our peer career advisors who are connected with entries and come to snacks and do kind of casual things there. We try to have a number of casual, like, work-in type sessions where they can come regardless of if they have questions or don't have questions. And then we also, so in order to get people to those things, they'll get emails from us that are just kind of, that normalize the process of not knowing or not having been there before. And so we also, you know, one of the things I really pride us on is that we care about data. And so we really, like, we're recording the information about who we're engaging with and how we're engaging with them so that we can, throughout the year, start reaching out to the people who haven't engaged or haven't engaged in certain developmental ways yet to have them consider whether they want to connect with us in those ways. So those are some of the ways to get them in the door. And then once they're in, we try to be nice and helpful.
I was just going can add one other thing, which is, again, definitely to what Janine was saying. I think about like the approachability and the accessibility, the normalizing. I think like it's very easy to come in here as a first year and think about and have an idea of what an office like ours might do, and think that that's a place that you go junior or senior year. And I think that that's the total opposite of how, you know, Janine has built out her curriculum for her advising team, for how our support services work for students. Like, we really have tailored our services to support first year students plus, right? So I think it's like just making it a very like approachable, normalizing it, I think has been work that we've really worked towards over the last number of years, so that we're not we're not a scary group of folks, and you can come in with literally no idea. Janine always says those are her favorite appointments. You know, like, you know, where you have no idea what you might not even know like what you want. It might be my family told me to come here, and like that's fine. You know, like I think that that's okay. Like because we always say like we can't help you if we don't really know you or know that you need help. Like I feel like so as long as you're coming in and building those relationships with us, we can try to meet you wherever you are. I don't know if you. I can't really see out there. Maybe in the yes. You.
I just wanted to follow on to that because I have a student a first year who went to some of the things in the beginning, and I think ended up feeling more overwhelmed rather than less, which I'm sure is normal. And I've suggested just go in and speak, but he feels really like it can't be true that you can just walk in and be like, "Hi, I feel totally overwhelmed and I don't even know where to begin." So you're saying, please do that, and when you just sign up and you just say like, "I don't know."
Yeah, totally. Do any of you have thoughts about that, or about what brought you to us, or a time when we were scary? Maybe we're still scary.
But I can talk about how I didn't know what I was doing, and I set a couple appointments with people in the career center, and I had nothing on my resume, like apart from some clubs in high school probably. And during my application, I had no clue where to apply, what are the things that are required for application. I just knew that people go to like the websites and submit their resume, but that's not really it. So I reached out to the career advisor, set a few appointments, and they really helped me like tell my story through my application, helped me navigate, okay, my first year I took a computer science course and I realized I was almost failing in the mid-semester, and I thought I was gonna give up, but I talked to some people, my professors, the career advisors, and they really helped me decide what I wanna do with my computer science career, and that was really helpful.
So I'll add that I find some of the things really overwhelming. And I also, you know, I think that I don't know whether the messages you can give your student after you leave here today will matter, but I think it's really helpful to celebrate being undecided or exploratory. I think some of the folks who acknowledge that and kind of embrace it rather than fight it and try to identify that it's going to be a certain thing probably have a better long-term experience of sampling and learning and kind of avoiding the pressures. We'd encourage them to do that if they come see us.
Thank you. So by contrast, what do you do with the freshman who comes in hyper-focused, thinking they want to, you know, do the hot thing in New York City and better start right away because it's so competitive? I love that you're talking about exploration. These students came here to Williams, to a liberal arts college. They have a lot of interests, but how do we deal with this problem for you and for the parents? I see it as a problem.
Yeah. I won't outwardly agree with you, but no, you know, it really is about meeting students where they are, right? And some of them are going to go really deep down a route, and you know, so I teach a very exploratory winter study course primarily for first year students. And one of the things I tell them is if you commit to being in this class, I'm going to force you to go deep and also go broad, right? It's a way to keep confirming that that's the thing that you want to do, to be aware of all the other things around it and the context around it. And so exploration is both of those things, right? It's broadening and deepening your understanding. And one of the things that is sometimes really important for us to frame to students is the difference between looking for experiences as a first year, as a sophomore, as a junior, what you're going to be competitive for, what it's okay if you miss the timeline for your first year because they weren't looking for you quite yet. And also we get to know them and figure out, like, for some of them, they are really competitive beyond what it might look like based on their class year. And so we try to just meet them where they are and help them to bridge the gap between there and where they might want to be next. And also normalize that, like, it's great to be really decided. And also it's okay if one day you wake up and you realize that's not quite it. We can help you then too.
The one thing I'll just add is that, like, I think that as like educators, right, we see ourselves as career educators, that it's total. There are some students who come in that are like very decided, and no one's going to say that that's a bad thing. I think our job, because we are not at all in the business of deterring people from any field, right? It's like we are there to educate them and make sure that they are making well-informed decisions. So it's a lot of question asking and asking about their exploratory options, et cetera. So I'll just say that, like, even for the student that comes in, I think that has that really definitive goal. I think, you know, we're working with them to just to evolve that with them. And they may still get back to that. They have decided since they were 6 years old that this is what they're going to do, and they leave here and they go and do it. And that's great. But I think we want to make sure that feels like a well-rounded educational process for them.
Yeah, I would just echo, there is a continuum of career readiness, and students are at different stages. It doesn't necessarily link to class year. We're here to honor all dreams, but if they've really gone through this intentional exploration process, really done the networking, done the internships, there's sort of natural consequences to doing these internships, getting into those New York City experiences. We can talk to them all day long, but sometimes until they have those experiences, do they really see, like, wow, maybe this isn't the right fit, or maybe it is the right fit. Same thing with some of the coursework. There's some very intense science courses here, for example. You mentioned the computer science course and how you navigated that. So there are a lot of influences on how students make decisions, family, teammates, colleagues, us, and it is a process, and that's really what we want to support, is them going through a full reflective process. And also we're just talking about the first job after graduation, right? Now for graduate school, so many students are waiting multiple years to figure that out. So the stakes aren't super high, like they have to figure out their career as a first year because there's a gate as a sophomore for the New York job. And so we really enjoy working with them through that process. So thanks for that question. Right there.
Hi, so my name's Anne. I'm a senior, and to sort of change the tenor of the conversation, that was the perfect segue. I had a thank you and a question. My thank you is the ASIC program is awesome. So happy to, like, just like, it was amazing.
Thank you, alumni. Yeah, who believe in the program. So for folks, alumni-sponsored internship program, it's about $1.3 million into the pockets of students competing for unpaid or low stipended internships, as mentioned. So just to repeat what ASIP is.
Yeah, no, so ASIC's been amazing. But then, as the senior looking towards graduation, I heard about the job fair and hearing about these things. Do you have, like, sometimes there are exigencies in life, could be medical issues, could be other things, that they're not maybe in the right space when they're physically on campus to be able to, you're nodding, so hopefully this isn't a weird question. So after graduation, if things don't settle out right, or say a job changes or disappears, like in the federal government right now, like, are you guys still open, like, do you guys have like a timeline that you expire? In terms of wanting to talk to graduates? And then the other thing is, if they want to do the law, like law, medicine, or graduate school, do you guys also have a time that you sort of expire in terms of when you're allowed to be in close contact?
That's a wonderful question. So we work pretty in depth with folks after they graduate, as they're still working towards that first job. And so we certainly don't expire when they graduate, right? There are a lot of folks who are still working for months on that search. And then we also work with them on early early job changes. We work very in depth with all the folks who are applying for med school. They go through our committee letter process and also other, law school, grad school programs. Once folks are a lot farther out, we'll do 1 or 2 appointments just to kind of get them centered and get them to the right resource. But for those young alums who are just kind of emerging and transitioning, and for those folks who are in those searches for especially med school and then the other types of graduate school, absolutely, we're there.
One quick follow-up question is that I bet there's a lot of adults in this room that may know of jobs, that especially in the current climate, is Lee, Sylvia, are you the person that we'd be in touch with if we know about postings?
You can start with me, yes.
Yes.
And I'll make sure it goes to the right person.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you explain how the asset works? I know Olivia tried that. Like, can a student just reach out to any potential businesses or employers and say, hey, I'm a young student, I wanted to try this? And then if the student actually gets the opportunity, how does the employer or the business work with you, Lisa, in the office? Like, what is this whole logistic like? Like Olivia, especially for you, you tried that. How do you go about it? Could you share some experience?
Maybe you start, and I can certainly talk a little bit more about the inner workings, but talk about your experience just going through maybe the application, finding what you found, et cetera.
I found a position, or I don't want to say I found the position. I guess I created it. Since I emailed, I asked, I said, okay, we're going to set something up. And then ASIP is due, March?
End of April.
End of April. So you have quite a lot of time to complete it. And it is an application. So on the student's end, it asks you about your exploration, about how you came to find the position that you're asking for funding for, and why you think it will help further your career exploration. And then for the employer, I think that they get a pretty short application of them basically just being like, yes, this exists. And so they don't have to do that much. And then for the student throughout the summer, there's a couple things that the student does if they secure the funding. So I had to do a midsummer check-in about how it was going, and then an end of summer reflection with some pictures. And then I also got to do an Instagram takeover, which I thought was very fun. If you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, so from the employer side too, we have employer partners, so people that we build that we either have pipelines to or relationships with, and essentially what that just means is that they can post their position, we will promote it to students so that they know that's kind of like a warm lead that exists. But there are many students that go out, create their own experience, or just happen upon another experience that is, say, not in that necessary pool of employers, and they can also apply for the experience. And then from the employer side, as alluded to, we also check in with the employers at the end of the experience to see how the experience went with the student. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. So it's open to students no matter the class year, except for graduating seniors. They cannot do it the summer after their senior year. Anything else to add to it? Yes, and we usually give last year we had 280 students that received the award, so give or take under 300 students were able to. Yes.
That made me think of a couple things. Yeah. So one is that right when folks came back at the beginning of the year on Convocation Weekend, for the first time this year, we had past recipients come and present out their experience to students. I think it was a really good opportunity for students to see the real variety of opportunities that students are doing. But also we have an online resource that's right on the right tab of our website called the Williams Summer Student Experience Database, which students fill out based on what they did for the summer, and all of the ASIP recipients are populated in there. And it's a really, really good way for students to just get a glimpse of what others have done in the past, to get some leads, to see what sorts of things have been funded, to see the variety of things that folks did. It's also tagged with which summer students did them, so you can tell, okay, what kinds of things do students do their rising sophomore summer, their rising junior summer, their rising senior summer. So a really good resource just to find out what folks are up to. You can apply every year.
when you can apply every year, you can apply as many times as you'd like, but there is a rubric evaluation process that we have, so that takes into consideration a number of things like duration of the internship. Are you traveling? Are you taking is it, part-time, full-time? How many hours? Travel, I said that. Other things.
Level of financial need
Yes.
is an important aspect of that. Folks, regardless of their level of financial need, can get funding, but there is preference for folks who have higher levels of financial need. And as Lee was speaking to, folks who haven't received funding before do get preference.
Yeah. In the back.
Yep. Two-pronged question around skill building. What type of basic skills does your center help as far as supporting the student in trying to get their first job, like skill building as far as interview skills, or if they're going into the finance world, Excel, like how do you guys think about that? And then the second part of the question is, how are you guys thinking about artificial intelligence? Because we're hearing so much about how it's impacting the job marketplace and the students. How is that informing how you are supporting students in that part?
On the skill building front, the kind of hidden curriculum that I was speaking to is kind of all the, it's how to write a really good targeted resume, how to really think about a cover letter and really think about the organization and your motivation, how to practice interviews. We do practice interviews with students. We do interview prep with students. We have a number of peer career advisors who do tech interview prep, case interview prep, financial, technical interview prep. That's experience that they have in recency that our professional staff doesn't have. And so those things are really important to us. We use resources like Management Consulted to get folks deeper content on some of those skills. Some of the other skills might come through deeper experiences like winter study courses that dive more deeply into a particular industry. But all the, our like bread and butter is the career development skills, right? How to think about your networking conversations, how to have good networking conversations, how to seek information from out there in the real world. And part of those too can help folks get the further depth and skills that they might need as they're going through this process. And then on the AI front, I'll speak from the context of how we're thinking about AI in the career development work that students do. And that's to say that you can't ignore that it exists. It is a tool that they use every day, and some of us use frequently as well. And so thinking about the ways in which they use it as a tool or a helper rather than the primary source of what they're doing, the things that really aren't acceptable to do with AI versus the things that can help them kind of expand their thinking or pare down their language or pieces like that. I think, in a broad sense, AI out there in the workplace, I think that for students to be talking to folks who are experiencing it right now, finding out how is this changing your day-to-day, how are you using it in your work, is one of the best ways to keep their finger on the pulse of how their industry is shifting and growing, because their skills are still going to be valuable. They just might be using them in slightly different ways.
Yeah, I think AI is becoming increasingly pervasive. I don't need to tell you that, but it's certainly landed in the career search business. In fact, there's vendors coming after us every day, it seems like, with their special sauce of what they're offering. You think about just a Google search that you do today, where the first results come up with your AI right at the start. I think one of the ways we're thinking about this is how can you creatively use this tool? So think of brainstorming as an example. You're a student who's heard that the jobs of tomorrow are at the intersection of different industries, right? And so AI can be very powerful helping source internship ideas, job ideas, some things that you can really pull from a whole range of resources. Obviously, we are key on there being a human on board. So if a student's doing a draft resume or a draft cover letter or practicing for their interviews using AI and similar tools, that's just part of the universe now. And so we just want to make sure they're also making sure a human has checked it. that they're working with humans. So Janine mentioned some of the incredible tools that are available out there, and we've purchased many of these subscriptions. Williams is a Gemini school, so students have full access. They're using it academically, and so it's available for them. So I don't know if that got to the heart of what your question was with AI, but we're using it. It's all over the field, and certainly students are using it to their advantage.
I'm pointing at you. Yeah.
My son is a sophomore, and he ended up doing a part-time virtual internship last summer. I'm not sure if he got much out of it. He said that most of the internships were virtual, and I was just wondering, is that what you think, and do you sort of recommend one or the other? Do you think virtual internships are any good?
Do you want to start?
Sure. Experience is experience. And rising sophomores are going to find that different opportunities are looking for them than rising juniors, rising seniors. If folks want to prioritize being in person, it might mean using strategies like Olivia talked about, where you're actually seeking an organization and trying to create something to meet your needs. I do know some students who are very clear on the fact that they feel like they're going to get more out of something when they're in person than if they're virtual. And there are a lot of well-crafted internships with great communication that are virtual. One of the things, with the winter study course I mentioned, our exploratory course, which is still open for applications for your first year students or sophomores, we do a 3-day trek to New York City. And we did hear overwhelmingly from employers that they thought it was really important for early career experiences as much as possible for students to opt to be in person if they have the choice, because of the ability to look at someone next to you and ask them a question or have a conversation. But we also know that workplaces are very interconnected virtually, and there are ways to have good, valuable virtual experiences.
I just want to pitch in something we talk about a lot in our internship search workshops is that having experience and realizing you don't like something about it is also very valuable. If you have a virtual internship and it's part-time before your sophomore summer, at least you gained experience, and realizing that you don't like having a virtual remote job is also helpful. Then you don't apply for one of those again, and it narrows down your search, which I think is worth having.
I'm going to add one more thing on that. You don't have to have an internship every summer. You don't have to have an internship every summer. There are so many things that are valuable: research, fellowships, travel, jobs that appeal to you, going back and working at a camp. There are lots of ways to build skills. Also, the students need to refresh. And that doesn't mean that internships aren't important. They are really, really important learning experiences, but there are many opportunities. There are 3 winter studies they can do them in. There are 3 summers they can do them in. And I just want to emphasize, if someone does not have an internship at every opportunity, it's fine. They will have room on their page for more things.
Student-organized professional clubs weren't really a thing in my day, and I'd be curious both about the students and the administrators' perspective on them. So you hear about very talented first and second years pursuing tech or entrepreneur or management consulting or legal or health professions. Students, did you participate in them? If so, what did you get out of them? If you didn't participate in them, was your perception of the people who did, were they wholesome and passionate about their career, or were they cynical, try-hard resume patters? Administrators, how do the student clubs complement what you do? Do they help with your mission, or are they at odds with Olivia's mission of exploration? Does it narrow the students too quickly? I just want to be able to give, I don't know how they work, I don't know what they're good for. I want to be able to give my first year advice about whether they're worth time and stamina.
So your question is specifically for pre-professional student organizations, correct? or just any organization?
Or just clubs. I keep hearing about I want to go explore the management consulting club or something, and you hear the scare stories. Oh my God, I'll never be able to get to work for McKinsey if I don't get let in, and I just don't know if this is. People are so habituated from the college rat race that they're perpetuating it in the career circles.
Okay, I see. Yeah. I think I have a lot of experience in pre-professional clubs, but also normal, not pre-professional clubs. I was one of the founders of Pilas, which is the Latinx pre-professional club, and our goal with that club was just connecting students to the Career Center and alumni, especially. Last year, Pilas took, I think it was around 12 students to a conference at UC Davis. So things like that, opportunities like that is sort of the main goal of programs like that, at least with the Latinx Pre-Professional Club. In terms of other organizations like Vista, our goal again is to just have give students a space to work on their career exploration and connect them to the resources on campus. Like I know other groups on campus have done collaborations with the peer career advisors. I know like Janine has worked some of those events too, or done like a work-in where students can bring their resumes and just have someone look at it there. So I think that's really the main goal with those pre-professional clubs. I can't speak to like consulting clubs or clubs in that area of career exploration, but that sort of has been my experience with orgs.
I had the opportunity to study away in my junior year at UC Berkeley, and I was heavily involved I was very much participating in a lot of tech clubs, and they have a lot of tech clubs. But at Williams, there's not much opportunity, so what I tried to do when I came back was gather some of my friends, open a new club, and try to replicate what they're doing. What the tech clubs do is they connect with different companies and bring in projects, small-scale projects, and get the students involved, getting them real hands-on experience on doing software engineering, product management roles, and having like a sort of small team working on that project. And that really is basically not necessarily just a personal project. You're working for a company, and you have an opportunity to also do a full-time if you do well in those projects. And the club is called If Bites. There's also another club that I work with. It's called COSEX. And that club is mostly for community building among the tech computer science community here. And oftentimes during the snack events, we try to gather up the opportunities that come in from different employers, alumni, into the computer science department, and we try to relay those information to those people that are attending those community events. I have some friends who are very heavily involved in the finance and consulting clubs, and they are very serious about it. There are people, they meet every week, they do case studies, they do interview preparations, and I think like the finance clubs here at Williams are very much active and doing so much work.
So my answer to the question is it cool to be involved in one of those and helpful? Sure. Is it damaging to not be? No. And part of this is just the more isn't always better, right? So maybe there's the potential that the folks and just to acknowledge for those who may or may not be aware, some of those clubs are very competitive, and there is a lot of student pressure amongst students to get into those clubs, and there are a lot of emotions around not being able to get into them. There are more clubs that emerge that are I think, as you mentioned, those couple, they accept all the students who want to be part of them. And so while there are those, there are also some that are competitive and not everyone gets into. But I think the point is there are many, many ways to explore. And some folks do it best independently, right? I'm going to connect with a person at a time. I'm going to learn this skill online. I'm going to do a project of my own. And some folks really thrive on doing it in these group settings. Some folks are going to get those experiences in their summer or winter study internships, and some are really going to take advantage over semesters. Those students are all, it's not that only the students doing everything are going to get internships and jobs. They are all going to be able to land in places, hopefully that make them happy and healthy. So Yeah, that's my take.
I was just going to add with that. I think that like our goal is to help students supplement their exploration journey, right? So for some students, those clubs are going to be that, as Janine was saying earlier, there are lots of ways to get experience, and campus activities is one of them. Campus involvement is one of them. Some students get leadership positions in those organizations, and they get great transferable skills with them. So I think it really goes back to meeting the student where they're at and seeing what their end goals are and seeing what opportunities could look like for them that help them get there.
I was just going to pitch in. I'm very much not involved in pre-professional clubs, but I am involved in other clubs. And I think that there's something we're saying that I think if you like something at Williams, I think everything is worth doing because you get experience from everything. And there's alumni connections with everything. Like I know a cappella groups have huge alumni connections. I know the Frisbee Club has really strong, you wouldn't think it, but I know that the Frisbee Club, they have some very strong alumni connections. And it's also true for groups like Alhambra, which is consulting. Yeah. See, I don't even know what it is. I just know people do it. But I don't know. I think that clubs, yes, are worth time. It does not have to be a pre-professional club. And I have friends who are econ majors. I have one friend, she was very serious about it freshman year. She's in Alhambra and what's the other one? Tahiti. Anyway, she was in 2, and she's like, I just don't have time for both. I don't need to do both, and it's going to be okay.
Students being able to be happy and healthy is most important, and there are only so many hours in a day. And sleep and eating are really important.
What is the name of your Instagram account, and are there other ways parents can stay apprised of your fair and when employers are on campus?
Eat careers.
Ah, okay. Thank you. And then are there other, okay, found it. I'm following you now. Are there other ways that we can remind our students to please go to the job fair?
Yeah, I think so. So I think honestly, just reminding them of our existence. I think having them know to use a few of the resources that we mentioned to you. If there's anything you walk away and you say to them, go log into Handshake, because Handshake's where you're going to be able to schedule an appointment, see opportunities, see events. That's certainly a starting point. And then once they're in the door, we can direct them to where they need to go.
Yeah. Just as far as any of you athletes or just any recommendations for athletes that are just going from class to training to weekend meets or whatnot, how do you guys deal with, I guess, the athletes at Williams?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that one because I was a multi-sport athlete in college, and believe it or not, employers really respect students who are able to juggle and choreograph athletics or other activities, athletics being one of the better known. So something like 50% of the students here are, I believe, varsity athletes, and the club goes on for many, many more students. There are incredible alumni networks, as you can imagine, through those athletics, which advantage some of those teams in terms of the internship and job search process. So there are some shortcuts there that they're taking, for better or worse. But many of the skills students are learning on the court, so to speak, or on the pitch, can be very transferable. So the teamwork, the communications, the ability to fail, fall down, pick themselves up, a lot of that translates very well into interviews, networking, thinking about different industries they might be interested in. So the athletes have a lot to offer, but at the same time, they are very time challenged and strapped. The good news is we're D3 with most of our sports. I think skiing may be the only D1, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not a full-time commitment. The coaches are very respectful of what has to happen on the academic front. If a student's in an interview cycle where, for example, with management consulting, they just really need to communicate that to their coach. Like, this fall, I am focusing on interviewing as well. So to negotiate, I've got to go down to New York, I've got to go to Boston. so that we really want to make sure students know that they need to communicate clearly about what their schedules are going to be so that coaches aren't surprised. Same thing with missing class. It's really important that students are communicating that clearly. So thank you for that question.
And I was just going to add too, we're just even in our scheduling, we're very cognizant of like practice time and things like that. So we purposely try to schedule events that happen at times where students have hopefully had time to grab a bite, or we are having food at said event for those students. So just knowing that we try to be accommodating, knowing that they are juggling a lot of different things.
And then to piggyback on that, we try to have the information that we're shared in multiple ways. You can read a guide, you can go to an appointment, you can go to a workshop. And so not having something where it's like, in some cases when there's a particular speaker coming, maybe we can't reproduce that. But for most of the things where we're teaching skills, having many ways that are possible to engage in that. Just also a shout out. Some athletes may be interested in going to careers in sports, and there are a couple of really incredible students who are doing their own work and pulling together with some support from us and the athletics department, a conference for sports careers over winter study this year, which I think is going to be a really incredible thing that students are doing for other students.
We have time for, let's go 2 more quick questions.
Question about summer internship. What if the student finds something in the country where people don't speak English? How do you deal with that? And also, do you help paying for travel to foreign lands?
So our funding can support students regardless of the location of their opportunity. Our limit is $5,500. And there's also funding through fellowships for things that aren't internships, but research or language study in other countries over the course of the summer. There are big pockets of funding associated with that. When it comes to helping students, if they do decide to be abroad, they really guide their choices as to how they're navigating those settings and what their comfort level with a language is where they're going to be.
How can a Chinese company prove to you that they exist in English? If they, not Chinese.
No, okay.
No, look, I'm talking maybe Iran, Russia, I don't know, like some weird country.
Right. Got it. So we do, some of our ASIP opportunities are folks who have supervisors who are abroad, and maybe you can speak a little more to language gaps that there have been.
Yeah, I think that, again, a lot of the contacts that, come to mind, usually there's a point of contact, either be it through the recruiter. We have had instances, say, where things have been sent to us. We possibly have needed to utilize translation mechanisms to understand what some of the paperwork looks like, et cetera. But usually there's always a place to get to some common ground of understanding. If the question is around legitimacy, et cetera, we have a team of folks that are looking into, websites and things like that and making sure that things feel as up to as credible as we can assess internally.
Final question, who's got it?
I'll just say supplementary. I guess this gentleman he meant how the future employer would evaluate his internship in a foreign language country. I guess this is what he meant.
Well, that's what you meant. But
Why don't you stick around afterwards? Yeah. We're happy to chat.
But, I think across the board, we work with students on articulating the value of their experiences. And so much of this is about students translating their liberal arts experience, the value of an internship maybe in a different industry and how it relates. And so the not literal translation across languages there, but I do think a lot of it is helping students articulate that.
Yeah, I think that we're at.
So thank you all so much. Enjoy your Williams moments. And thanks again to our special students for joining us. We really appreciate it.